My first Buddhist teacher really just taught me that life is trustworthy and sacred. Anything and everything that happens to you is on the way, not in the way. He provided me with a framework that I didn't have. I think having a view or a framework to put some context to all the nightmares and the challenges out there is really helpful. And a lot of people don't have a view.
Hello, everyone. This is Ekaterina with Trust Me Mom, and my guest today is Jayson Gaddis. He is a very multifaceted man. He is a dad, a teacher, a student, a speaker, an author, a human behavior nerd, and much more. He's an author of a wonderful book that is called Getting to Zero: How to Work Through Conflict in Your High Stakes Relationship. And of course, I would like to talk to Jayson about how to build relationships and how to build a beautiful family. Jayson, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Can you tell us your story? Because I know initially you were not so interested in getting married and having kids, and now it's the best thing that ever happened to you. So how did that transition happen?
Yeah, thanks. The short of it is I was a sensitive boy, stern father, and a boy culture that didn't allow for a lot of feelings. And so I became a kind of a shut down shell of myself. And then that became very difficult to be in a relationship with in my 20s. And I repeated a lot of relationship failures being a close-hearted guy, to a lot of upset women. And then enough failures, I realized like, well, maybe I'm the problem. I'm the common denominator here in all these relationships. And when I realized that, it was very freeing because I was like, oh, I could do something about that. I went to graduate school to study myself and psychology and people. I became a therapist. I met my wife there. And we started a journey of having a real adult relationship. And we treated it as a spiritual path. So it became much more compelling and interesting under that kind of frame. And then kids were a natural byproduct that I just wanted a family. I wanted to do the whole program because I saw relationships as a way to grow myself and to see myself more clearly. Plus, it's such a central, pivotal part of our life.
Right. And you have a school that you started. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, so I started a private practice as mostly a couples therapist, and I was kind of hearing the same problems and the same things, and so I started writing it all down. I started a blog and eventually started teaching classes online. And eventually I said, gosh, I'm so tired of complaining there is no class in high school or college on relationships. So I just started a school called the Relationship School where people could come learn how to do this part of their lives better. And since then, I've been training coaches all over the world and training people in how to do communication and conflict and repair better, so that they can have more fulfilling, family and love relationships.
And can you share a little bit more from your biography? Because I would love people to get a taste of what a fascinating person you are. I know you're an athlete, you're a skier. So tell us more about some of those wild adventures you had before your 30s. So can you mention some of it?
Yeah, I mean, sure. Which one? There's so many. Yeah. So in college, I got it really into drugs and alcohol, mostly to medicate my pain because I was in a lot of pain and didn't really admit that or know that. I just thought, oh, this is fun because I felt better on drugs than I felt sober. And that led me to a lot of high risk behaviors, doing really stupid things. And I was kind of showing off, trying to be somebody and trying to get external validation. So I was an extreme skier, hurting my body to get attention, jumping off cliffs, and rock climber, mountain biker. And I would, again, combine all that stuff with some drugs and alcohol, and you got kind of a dangerous recipe. I just made a lot of dumb choices. I had a lot of fun in moments, but I would argue now, looking back, I'm like, how much more fulfilling could they have been if I was sober and really connected to myself? Yeah, I traveled, I hitchhiked across Alaska and Central America. Um, so yeah, there's many stories from those experiences. But the bottom line was I was kind of trying to find myself. There was a little teeny whisper of a voice. It's like, you're not happy, you're not fulfilled, you're not being yourself. So let's go on a journey and figure out who we are. And that was kind of my light way of engaging in my journey, even though I still thought everyone out here was the problem. I wasn't ready to admit I was the problem. Uh, so yeah, that was like 10 years of adventuring and messing around and making a lot of mistakes.
Yes, and now you can relate to a lot of those troubled men or some who are seeking,
Yeah.
and it gives you a huge power. But at the same time, going through that experience, going through those highs and lows could be very, very tough and traumatic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was a privileged life, so I wouldn't compare my life to someone living on the streets. But for a privileged kid, uh, I had a good life, but I was like a lot of us, if we're not being really who we are, who we're here to be, we're probably in pain. And we get a lot of messages from the outside about who we should be, whether it's trying to please our parents or trying to be somebody in our culture or trying to follow the religious script or whatever. Like until we follow our own North Star, we're going to be unfulfilled. And that's a human thing, no matter what your socioeconomic situation is. Most of us want to be who we are in our heart of hearts. And what I love about marriage is it pushes us to be a more authentic version of ourselves because it's very hard to hide in a marriage.
Yes, I love some of your content that can even sound controversial in a sense that, well, don't get married if you're not ready to do these things, or it's the toughest relationship you'll ever experience. And indeed, your partner will bring that hidden shadow part or unhealed childhood trauma, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And it is, I find it to be such a difficult and yet beautiful and rewarding path is to be in a it doesn't have to be marriage, right? It can be just a long term 10, 20, 30-year relationship where you just kind of seal the exits and you just decide to like grow as a person. It's a really beautiful way to develop yourself. If you don't like discomfort, you don't like growth, and you just kind of want to park your car and call it a day, then I don't recommend marriage at all.
I really liked an insight you and your wife shared on one of the podcasts where it sounds like she was the first who decided what she wants to do next. And then you also followed to some extent. And you mentioned that whether it was a therapy session where it's normal, especially for men, perhaps, to realize that you're not with your partner 24/7, you want to do things together. It's okay to even have desires to pull out a little bit and have the distance, so it's a
Mhm.
normal part of any relationship. So can you elaborate on that a little bit?
So I can only speak for myself and then, of course, the couples and people I see over 20 years, which is that often one partner, often the male, not always, feels kind of trapped by a relationship, engulfed. Like, oh, marriage is gonna like, I'm trapped. And that's one way to look at it, and that it can feel that way, certainly for some people. But if we take a different view and say that, well, marriage actually is the place for more freedom, you can actually be more of who you are as long as you and your partner agree it's okay to go off and do your own things and take space and take as much time as you want to go play and adventure and come back because this is our relationship. You're committed to it. We're a team here. So as long as couples need to set it up in a way that works for both people. So if one partner has a problem with you taking a lot of space, then that's a problem. That should be a problem for both of you. But ideally, you're in a relationship where, within reason, you can take as much space as feels good and come back. And often it's the space, closeness, space, closeness that makes a good relationship. That balance, the right balance between space or separateness and closeness. And couples each have to find their way with what works for them.
Yes. Let's talk about conflict because conflict is inevitable. That's a fantasy that people think they got married and lived happily until they died together in
Yeah.
one day. So this is a big point in your work about how to repair a conflict. So can you teach my audience some of the tips and tricks how to be successful in conflict repair?
Y- Yeah. So first we need to start with a mindset that conflict, while uncomfortable, and none of us like it, it's okay and it's a part of life and it's a part of relationships. Good relationships have conflict because we just have to bump up against each other. And so you got to stop making that a problem and stop running away from it. And if you embrace it, you can learn how to work with it, which is, wow, this is uncomfortable. I don't like how I feel. I don't like how you're treating me. And we begin to communicate in creative ways and find creative problem solving ways to feel better here. And repair is an essential part of learning about conflict because it's not about conflict shouldn't happen or it's bad. it's conflict's uncomfortable and inevitable. And if that's true, then we got to get good at cleaning up and repairing the mistakes we made during conflict, which is often we raise our voice or one of us withdraws and retreats and goes silent, which upsets our partner, of course. So if we can learn how to repair, then no conflict is a problem because we know how to fix it. We know how to solve, like work through it and say, and repair. And so that leads into, well, how do we repair? And there's a couple just key things I'll teach real quick without, you know, taking a 2-hour course on it here. Just in a couple minutes is we can speak, like, let's say you and I are in a marriage and we had a really bad fight and we're now kind of separate in the house and we're both kind of hurt and guarded and closed off. Well, that can't go on forever, right? That's not good for anybody. Someone has to initiate a repair or a conversation. And let's say I initiate it and I say, Ekaterina, hey, I don't like how we feel. I don't like what happened there. I want to get back to a good place with you. Can we talk? And you say yes. And I said, and if I'm leading with talking first, I can talk first or I can listen first. If I lead with talking, I need to just, instead of saying you always, you never, which is about you, I talk about what I'm responsible for. Like, hey, I want to take responsibility that I raised my voice there and I can see that scared you and hurt your feelings and I called you that name or I spoke badly of your friend and that was upsetting to you and that makes sense. And then I listen and honey, what do you want to tell me that was upsetting? And I go into listening mode and I validate, I reflect back what I heard, I validate your feelings, I take responsibility for my part, and then I empathize. And it's like that simple, right? If I'm listening, I do those 4 steps first. I don't talk at all. I just hear you out. And then I reflect back the essence of what you're saying. Okay, so you're telling me I raised my voice, I hurt your feelings. Yeah, okay. And then I validate, yeah, that makes sense because I did raise my and I own because I did raise my voice. And if you learn just these basic steps, and I do that for you and you do that for me, we're repairing the snag that we got into. And now our nervous system's calmed down. We feel like we're open again and receptive and we're connected again. And that process can take minutes to hours to days, depending on your skill level and the willingness of both people. But it's an essential skill. To me, it's like the one thing every married couple or long term relationship couple has to figure out. If you don't know how to do that, you're kind of screwed.
Yes, ironically, the first video I found on YouTube where it was you and your wife modeling kind of showing a fight
Uh-huh.
acting out when it was a fight about going to your relatives for the
Yeah.
holidays. Yes, it's so iconic. And I even sent it to my husband that it's such a widespread challenge for many families. And you showed how it happened, what the typical fight often happens in families,
Hmm.
what mistakes you both made, especially you analyzed yourself, I believe, and then you showed how to repair or how to avoid it, what you could have said differently to de escalate. And there are a lot of examples like that on YouTube and your Instagram. So thank you for sharing that content. And I'm sure people
Of
can,
course.
can learn more in your school if they enroll in your school.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's lots of places to learn it, but I like how we break it down here because I try to keep things super simple and not get too elaborate. It's just there's a couple moves I teach every couple and everybody that comes through our courses, and people see improvement and they see it gets results. Like I was working with a couple yesterday, they're just at each other, and I just taught them what essentially you and I just walked through there. Of course, it was a little slower, and then they did it and they took turns and they looked at each other and I was like, "How's the vibe between you now?" And they're like, yeah, way better. This feels awesome. This is how I want to feel in my home. And I'm like, yeah, well then do the thing that's hard. Stop doing your way and start doing it this new way
Yes.
and you're going to feel better.
So let's touch on a really big conflict that many families experience right now in a very tough economy. People are losing jobs or start a business and fail it. And it impacts family dynamic, makes another spouse really threatened and scared, as
Hmm.
well as the one who lost the job or business didn't work out. And in your experience, I know that you started several businesses. One is successful, but there were some failures along the way, including when you
Uh-huh.
were married. How did you navigate it in your family?
Well, my wife's always been incredibly supportive and cheering me on, which has been amazing. So even though I have at times failed and felt like a failure, she's been there for me and with me, and that's felt incredibly supportive because it does help to have a supportive partner that believes in us. Obviously, there's scary moments where the finances have been impacted. I'm remembering when my son was born. This is like 16 years ago. My this business I started for men failed, and I just threw in the towel. And I went into kind of an existential crisis for like a year and a half. And then my wife was pregnant with our daughter during that time, and I was kind of like stuck in myself and woe is me and feeling like a failure. And at one point, she just looked at me and said, "Dude, I need you to like kind of get over yourself and show up for me." Because she was in, I was having a hard pregnancy and it was intense. And that helped me snap out of my own self absorption and into service and being there for her, which also helped me get over my own kind of failure issues that I had at the time. And then financially, I just started piecing it together. We had, a couple really hard months. We got a little bit of support from one of my parents. Um, there was just a lot going on, but I can just really appreciate what you're saying, which is finances is so difficult for couples, and to get on the same page and really support each other, to be transparent, because that's another thing. Sometimes we hide our financial issues because of shame. And again, like anything, though, like sex problems, money problems, um, family problems, they're all opportunities for us to learn how to communicate better and become a better team. And if couples can remember that, it's like, okay, now's our moment. We're having a hard moment financially. This is our opportunity to be an awesome team. How do we do that? And you might need to go hire a coach or therapist or take some courses to do that.
How did you climb out of that pit, basically?
I mean, one step at a time, you know, very, very slowly. And again, I had a men's group, I had a therapist, I was taking online classes. I had to find in myself the place I believe in myself, and just slowly but surely.
Yes. And now you were recently faced with another huge challenge, which is a health surprise. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you received the diagnosis, how you processed yourself, and then how did it impact your family? And when there's a really big health scare, many parents might go into panic mode, worrying about their family. What if something really bad happens to them and they
Mhm.
cannot raise their kids? So, can you walk us through your journey here with the health?
Yeah. In March 2024, I was diagnosed with very, very early stage prostate cancer. And we caught it because of an MRI that I advocated for with my doctor. Otherwise, I'd be living with prostate cancer right now talking to you, and I wouldn't know it. And that was pretty scary, of course. The word cancer is very loaded in our culture. And the good news is I have no symptoms and I'm in good shape and I have really good care and I'm doing really well. And I think it was the what set the stage for that was a lot of business stress and money stress and trying to kind of grow my business too much and getting disconnected from myself and being really stressed out, pushing way too hard and working all the time, and it just started to compromise. I think that stress is what really was the thing I have control over, that I think turned on the cancer, like allowed the genes to express. And yeah, it was scary in our family, and we told our kids pretty soon after, and they were scared but took it pretty well. And dad has really good care, and I have amazing care, and I have an amazing team. And again, my wife's been amazing. So I feel like I feel really grateful, honestly, because it's pushed my health to the next level. And I don't have stage 4 cancer, which is some people are fighting for their lives. I'm not. And so I'm very grateful for every day that I'm not fighting to live. And my heart goes out to all the families out there that are struggling with life threatening illnesses of any kind, right? Because it's so scary. But yeah, it's just learning like anything and growing and doing my best to get stronger.
Yes. Thank you for that answer. And it almost feels like the older we become, the more challenges are thrown at us. It's almost like a Halo game. I feel like it's a very intense computer game where as
Yeah.
soon as you mastered one level, there's a new level. And sometimes it can be too much. And you work with a lot of trauma, with a lot of people who experience pretty traumatic events in their lives. And sometimes they get so overwhelmed where they're like, I'm not ready for another zombie attack. And
Yeah.
zombie attack could be business. When you just mentioned that there's a lot of stress running the business, initially you wanted to help people, but then the more you scale, the harder it is to do. You need a completely different skill set to run the
Mhm.
business versus having one-on-one coaching, correct?
Correct.
So
Yep.
that was a new learning for you. Then there is a uh, cancer diagnosis. Then we all will have aging parents and other things, or maybe kids grow up and they have something. So how do you cope with this kind of zombie attacks as
Yeah.
we progress through our lives?
Yeah, well, again, you're absolutely right. I mean, so many of us are there's just so much stress now, and we're all so overwhelmed and busy. And it's like if there's not one challenge, it's another, and if it's not inside our home, it's outside our home. So it's a lot, and I feel really grateful. My first Buddhist teacher, um, back in maybe 20 something years ago, really just taught me that life is trustworthy and sacred, and that anything and everything that happens to you is on the way, not in the way. And, he provided me with a framework that I didn't have prior to that. And I think having a view or a framework to put some context to all the nightmares and the zombies and the challenges out there is really helpful. And a lot of people don't have a view. And so I think your context that you're walking around with every day really matters. So find a view is like the first thing. Be grateful if you have one, to put all the challenges inside of and go, oh, challenges are opportunities, is an example, right? Challenges aren't problems in and of themselves, they're opportunities, and they're opportunities to learn. Even that view alone is immensely empowering and helpful. And then also getting really connected. I think relationships and having good quality relationships where you can be authentic and be honest about your challenges is essential to be not alone and to feel supported and to feel like no matter what you go through, there's people cheering you on and they're there for you that are going to hold you through whatever hard thing you're going through. So if you don't have that, right, you've got to prioritize that and get that set up in your life. It's like a safety net. It's just like I got people holding me, and that's incredibly comforting. So a view and good relationships, I think, are two things that we can continue to strengthen as the challenges keep coming, right? Because, like you said, you hit one level and you're like, oh, cool, look at me. I'm on the mountaintop and I get to rest. And it's like another wave hits you and you're back on your back, or your face is on the ground and you're like, shit. So it seems like challenges are never going to stop. It's kind of how life works. So I might as well relax and just be like, okay, this is how life works. I want to get better at handling adversity. I want to build more capacity in myself to meet the challenges. And of course, we teach our kids at home because kids are growing up now with pacifiers and addicted to phones, and they're very compromised when it comes to meeting life's challenges. So we want to, if you're a parent raising kids, you want to have your kids do hard things consistently over and over again so that they're prepared for the big waves that will come in their life. You don't want your kids being crippled by little challenges and then, you have to come in and rescue them at age 25 and 30 and 35 and 40 again. Like, no, you want kids to meet life. And to do that, we got to push them to do hard things. And it's really important. Yeah.
Yes, wise words. Thank you so much, Jason.
Yeah. You're so welcome.